ഗണേശ പഞ്ചരത്ന സ്തോത്രം. മുദാകരാതമോദകം സദാ വിമുക്തി സാധകം കലാധരാവതംസകം വിലാസി ലോകരക്ഷകം അനായകൈകനായകം വിനാശിദേവദൈത്യകം നതാശുഭാശുനാശകം നമാമി തം വിനായകം. നതേതരാതിഭീകരം നവേദിതാർക്കഭാസ്വരം നമത്സുരാരി നിർജരം നദാധികാപദുദ്ധരം സുരേശ്വരം നിധീശ്വരം ഗജേശ്വരം ഗണേശ്വരം മഹേശ്വരം തമാശ്രയേ പരാത്പരം നിരന്തരം സമസ്തലോകശങ്കരം നിരസ്തദൈത്യകുഞ്ചരം ദരേതരോദരം വരം വരേ ഭവക്രമക്ഷരം കൃപാകരം ക്ഷമാകരം മുദാകരം യശസ്കരം മനസ്കരം നമസ്കൃതം നമസ്കരോമി ഭാസ്വരം അകിഞ്ചനാർത്തിമാർജനം ചിരന്തനോക്തിഭാജനം പുരാരി പൂർവനന്ദനം സുരാരി ഗർവചർവനം പ്രപഞ്ചനാശഭീഷണം ധനഞ്ജയാദിഭൂഷണം കപോലദാനവാരണം ഭജേ പുരാണവാരണം നിതാന്തകാന്തദന്തകാന്തി മന്ദകാന്തകാത്മജം അചിന്യരൂപമന്തഹീനമന്തരായ കൃന്ദനം കൃതന്തരേ നിരന്തരം വസന്തമേവ യോഗിനമേകദന്തമേവ വിചിന്തയാമി സന്തതം മഹാഗണേശ പഞ്ചരത്നമാദരേണ യോഗം പ്രചൽപതി പ്രഭാതകി സ്മരൻ ഗണേശ്വരം അരൂപതാമദോഷതാം സുസാഹിതീം സുപുത്രതാം സമാഹിതായുരഷ്ടബോധിമഭ്യുപൈതി സോചിരാ സമാഹിതായുരഷ്ടബോധിമഭ്യുപൈതി സോചിരാ. മൂകം കരോതി വാചാലം പങ്കും ലംഘയതി ഗിരിം യത്കൃപാതമഹം വന്ദേ പരമാനന്ദമാധവം. യം ബ്രഹ്മാ വരുണേന്ദ്രരുദ്രമരുതഃ തുന്വന്തി ദേവേ സർവൈ വേദൈ സാംഗപദക്രമോപനിഷദൈ ഗായന്തി യം സാമഗാഃ ജ്ഞാനാവസ്ഥിതദർഗദേന മനസാ പശ്യന്തി യം യോഗിനോ യസ്യാന്തം ന വിദുഃസുരാः സുരഗണാഃ ദേവായ തസ്മൈ നമഃ. സർവധർമാൻ പരിത്യജ്യ മാമേകം ശരണം വ്രജ. അഹം ത്വാ സർവപാപീഭ്യോ മോക്ഷയിഷ്യാമി മാ ശുചഃ. ശ്ലോകാസ് 11 to 20. ഓം നമോ ഭഗവതേ വാസുദേവായ. ഓം ശ്രീകൃഷ്ണ പരമാത്മനേ നമഃ. അധ പഞ്ചമോധ്യായഃ കർമ്മസന്യാസയോഗഃ. ശ്രീഭഗവാനുവാച कायेन मनसा बुद्ध्या केवलेन्द्रियैरपि योगिनः कर्म कुर्वन्ति संगं त्यक्त्वात्मशुद्धये युक्तकर्म फलं त्यक्त्वा शान्तिमाप्नोति नैष्ठिकीम् अयुक्तकामकारेण फले सक्तो निबध्यते सर्वकर्माणि मनसा सन्न्यस्यास्ते सुखं वशी नवद्वारे पुरे देहि नैव कुर्वन्न कारयन् न कर्तृत्वं न कर्माणि योगस्य सृजति प्रभुः न कर्मफलसंयोगं स्वभावस्तु प्रवर्तते नादत्ते कस्यचित् पापं न चैव सुकृतं विभुः अज्ञानेनावृतं ज्ञानं तेन मुह्यन्ति जन्तवः ज्ञानेन तु तदज्ञानं येषां नाशितुमात्मनः तेषामादित्यवज्ञानं प्रकाशयति तत्परं तद्बुद्धयस्तदात्मानं तन्निष्ठास्तत्परायणाः गच्छन्त्य पुनरावृत्तिं ज्ञाननिर्धूतकल्मषाः विद्या विनयसम्पन्ने ब्राह्मणेकविहस्तिनि शुनि चैव श्वपाके च पंडितः समदर्शिनः इहैव तर्जुतः सर्ग येषां सामे स्थितं मनः निर्दोषं हि समं ब्रह्म तस्मात् ब्रह्मणि ते स्थिताः न प्रहृष्येत् प्रियं प्राप्य नोदिच्छेत् प्राप्य चाप्रियं स्थिरबुद्धिरसम्मूढाः ब्रह्मणि स्थितः ॐ तत्सत्
Hari Om. Hari Om. Thank you. Thank you. We KG, please do the recap.
Hari Om. Can you listen me?
Yes, we can. Please go ahead.
Hari Om. In chapter 5, Karma Yoga, Sloka 16, first word is Jnanen. In here, Jnanen means knowledge, by knowledge. We are all know Supreme Brahman, and like ignorance, we need to remove from the ego and ignorance. Everything need to ignorance. We nothing to do. Everything do Narayan. We only nimit matra. Everything is God wish. And our supreme goal in this world, no return in this world. Our journey only not to Narayan. Our this Manushya Janma goal only the moksha. Hari Om. Hari Om, finish.
Hari Om. Thank you. Jairamji, can you start the new verse?
Hari Om. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavihastini Shuni Chaiva Shrupake Cha Panditaha Samadarshinaha. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne, upon one endowed with learning and humility. Brahmane, on a Brahmana. Gavi, on a cow. Hastini, on an elephant. Shuni, on a dog. Cha and Iva, even. Shwapake, on an outcast. Sha and Panditaha, sages. Samadarshinaha, equal seeing. Sages look with an equal eye upon a Brahmana endowed with learning and humility, on a cow, on an elephant, and even on a dog and an outcast. The wise cannot but see and recognize the same presence of divinity everywhere. The ocean has no difference in feeling for different waves. Gold cannot recognize itself as different in different pieces of ornaments. From the standpoint of mud, all mud pots are the same. Similarly, an egoless man, having recognized himself to be God, can find in no way any distinction in outer world of names and forms. The distinctions generally recognized are all the distinction of the containers. Man to man, there may be differences in form, shape, and color of the body, or the nature of the mind, or the subtlety of the intellect. But as far as life is concerned, it is the same everywhere at all times. Therefore, it is said in this stanza that the self-realized cast an equal eye on a Brahmana endowed with scholarship coupled with humility, on a cow, on an elephant, on a dog, or on a parrot. Everywhere he realizes the presence of the same truth, whatever be the container. A rich man's son, after his father's death, came to bad times, and he at last decided that he would dispose of golden idol of Hanumanji, which the father had left in the house. He took it to the goldsmith, who broke it into pieces, weighed the gold in idol, tested it, and paid the price. After a few days, the spendthrift again took the Lakshmana idol to the same goldsmith, who again smashed the idol, tested the gold, weighed it, and paid the price. Now, for the third time, when the young man was in trouble, he took the idol of Sri Ramaji to the same goldsmith. The trader in gold had no hesitation at all, and as before, smashed the Sri Rama idol, carefully tested the quality of the gold, weighed it, and paid the price. But when the amount was placed in the young man's hand, he started protesting that Lord Ramchandraji should not be paid at the same weight as other idols. The goldsmith said, "My dear sir, I did not purchase your Ramji, Lakshmanaji, or Hanumanji. My profession is to test and pay for the gold." The wise goldsmith added, "And if you think that your Ramji is more sacred, I have no objection to you. You are taking away Ramchandraji with you, but give me the same weight of gold." The gold-seeing goldsmith considers but the gold in all forms. He cannot see the distinction of Rama gold from Sita gold or Lakshmana gold from Hanuman gold. However, whatever be the form, it is all gold to him. The self-realized sage, after his experience of the inner divinity, sees nothing but the same spirit everywhere, and therefore, to him, a man of knowledge and humility, a dog or an elephant or a dog eater, all are different containers containing the same truth. Equal vision is the hallmark of realization. The perfected cannot make distinctions based upon likes and dislikes. In and through all form situations, he sees the expression of the same dynamic truth which he experiences as his own self. Shankara, in his commentary on this stanza, quotes Gautama Smriti. He says that it is not only sinful if we do not respect those whom we must respect, but it is equally sinful if we respect those whom we should not respect. Gautama Institute, chapter 18, sloka 20. Thus, from the standpoint of this Smriti declaration, to respect the dog as much as the Brahmana, or to respect a Brahmana only as much as we generally respect a dog, would both be sin indeed. In order to show that it is not so, the following stanza is given. These are not sinful for. Ihaivatayirjadat sargo yesham samye sthitam manaha nirdosham hi samabrahma tasmad brahmani te sthitaha. Pita here, eva, even, taye, by them, jitaha, conquered, sarga, rebirth, yasham, of whom, samye, inequality, sthitam, established, manaha, mind, nirdosham, spotless, he, indeed, samam, equal, brahma, Brahman, tasmat, therefore, Brahmani, in Brahman, they sthita are established. Even here in this world, birth, everything is overcome by those whose minds rest in equality. Brahman is spotless indeed and equal. Therefore, they are established in Brahman. In this stanza, almost a whole scripture is indicated. In the context of the development of the theme, Lord Krishna had to show, first of all, that the perfection described in the previous few stanzas is not a godly idealism to be experienced after death. It is a specialized world beyond the clouds called the heavens. Puranic Hinduism and all Semitic religions promise a heaven as glorious as the glorious goal of existence and spiritual effort. However, to an intelligent man, this promise is nothing more than a charming hallucination and not a positive gain. Such a vague goal cannot be sufficiently encouraging to coax out of an intelligent man all his enthusiasm and sincerity. Contrary to this vague hope, here in Vedanta, the naked truth declared when Krishna repeats what rishis had earlier asserted 1,000 times. It is expressly mentioned that the relative existence as a limited ego center can be ended, and the imperfect individual can realize himself to be the infinite Godhead. This goal can be reached not only at a post-mortem stage, but in this very same life, here in this very body, among these very same worldly objects. And one can live in the consciousness of God, evolving oneself from the immaturities of the deluded ego sense. Who is capable of gaining this ascendancy in himself? What is the secret method by which this consummate self-redemption can be effectively fulfilled? The assertion that man can reach this goal in this very life is made in the very first line by a detailed description of how it can be executed and practically lived. It is said that the one whose mind rests in evenness gains the divine tranquility of a God-man. Patanjali Yoga Sutra also explains the same fact in different words. Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha, Patanjali Yoga Sutra 2. where the thought flow, which creates unequal and spasmodic mental fluctuations, is arrested, there the mind ends. Where the mind ends, it being the equipment through which life expresses as a limited ego, this sense of separate existence also ends. When the ego is ended, the egocentric thraldom of samsara also ends. The ego, thus undressed of its samsaric sorrows, rediscovers itself to be nothing other than the self itself. Unless one comes to this mental equipoise, one is not capable of experiencing the samatvam of the samadarshana described in the previous stanza. Refer to the explanation of the term samatvam yoga darshana, yoga uchyate in Gita 2, chapter 2, verse 48. Such an individual who has conquered his mind and has come to live in perfect equanimity in all conditions of life, in all its relationship, Krishna vehemently asserts he indeed rests in Brahman. This may look rather illogical at the first reading, and therefore, at an explanation of a parenthetical clause, Krishna gives his reason for such a daring assertion. He says, since Brahman is even and ever perfect, Brahman is homogeneous and all-pervading. Everything happens in it, and yet nothing happens to it. Thus, the truth remains changeless and ever the same. Just as a riverbed ever remains motionless, although the units of water flowing in it are ever changing, it is a quality of the substratum to remain changeless. All manifestation and superimpositions by their very nature must change. An individual in his identification with his body, etc., become a changing factor, a victim of every passing disturbance. But the substratum, the self, ever remains the same. An individual who has discovered for himself a sufficient amount of tranquility in which nothing dares disturb him anymore is certainly one who has plumbed the depths and touched the bottom. A reed on the wave will be tossed up and down, by the waves. But a lighthouse built upon the firm rocks always remains upright and changeless, allowing even the stormy waves to exhaust their anger at its feet. Krishna's argument is thus logically sound when he declares that the mortal among us who can maintain his equanimity under all conditions, as explained in the foregoing stanzas, is indeed one who has contacted the divine and the eternal in himself. He indeed rests in Brahman. Hari Om. Sages sees and recognize divinity in everywhere. That is a wonderful state of experience. How can we achieve this? Or what stops us from gaining such a capacity to remain and recognize the divinity in everything around us? In our day-to-day life, our transaction to the world outside, our focus is always on the attributes. Because in this time of commercial commercial minded transactions. Even if I go to purchase a rice, I am attracted by the packing of it. I can't see the rice as such because it is handed over in a beautiful envelope. That is the situation. So we are trained to look at the outer cover these days, and the importance is on the packing. So when we, with this type of training, when we meet a person, we start judging him or her by gender, by the dress, color of the skin, physical appearance, and so on. His power, position, wealth, etc. This is what we are interested. And based on this observation, we make our opinion. Likes or dislikes. By habit, we see negativity in everything. And we say, by this attitude, we misses the divinity. Secondly, we are also bound by attachment, our relationship. We always think in terms of my mind. We see others separately from us. It is always my child, my wife, my dog, etc. We cannot expand from this attachment. We cannot think beyond our own. We cannot think about encompassing everyone along with us. Gurudev very humorously put that this attachment is, luckily, it is not physical, it is only mental. Otherwise, it would have been a problem. We cannot step out of the house because of this attachment. Let us look at an example of a school. Most of us must have experienced this. And this school has got a big gate and the parents are stopped at the gate, luckily. Otherwise, the parent would like to go with the child into the classroom. So the security stops you at the gate. Only children are allowed inside. Now, from the moment the child leaves you, until he disappears from the vision, our focus is only on my child. All other children are out of focus. But at the same time, the headmistress is waiting in the veranda, greeting children. For her, everyone is equal. There is no distinction. There is no one is special. She loves all. Often parents go to watch the children perform in the annual functions in the school. Parents forgets whatever happening on the central stage. The drama, the king and queen, all important characters, they act. But they will just wait for their own child walks in to hand over a rose to the king or queen. And that is lasting maybe a few seconds, but they will not forget to record the scene in the mobile phones. And later when you ask them about the drama, they will say, my child was superb. That is our state of mind. Whereas equal vision is the hallmark of realization. For a saint, all are equal. He recognizes the same spark of life in him as the life in all around him, including plant and animal. We can also do this. We actually love our garden, our dog, but we cannot expand beyond that due to these two things, our attachments. I was lucky to observe this kind of love from Puja Gurudev. During his satsang, after satsang, many people used to line up to meet him personally, and they bring sometimes fruits, flowers, sometimes they offer envelopes with money. But it was very happy to see Gurudev treated all of them equally, whether it is a big businessman with coming with a lot of fruits and flowers, or an ordinary person walking in without anything. For him, everyone was equal, and each one of them left the hall with the same degree of happiness. Nobody was unhappy. So that is the kind of equanimity. If we can reduce our ego, it is like the divinity is behind a curtain. The extent we remove the blocking curtains, which is called ego, that much we can connect with the divinity. Hari Om.
Thank you, Jaramji, for sharing your experiences with Gurudev and your explanations. Thank you. We now move on to Ishwarji for his views.
Hari Om.
Ishwarji, you are audible. Please go ahead.
May I start? Okay. Now stanza 18. 18 is a very important sacred number in our culture. Now second stanza 18. Shuni cha eva shwapake panditaha samadarshinaha. Now the meaning of pandit is one who is well versed in the scriptures. That is a pandit. And when you say you are well versed in scriptures, what it means is that there is an alignment between what you think, what you say, and what you do. So manasa, vacha, karmana, there is an alignment. If you are not doing that, then you are doing papam. Now, iha means here. So life is to be lived now. Now then second line says, Nirdosham hi samam brahma. Now this samam is a superfluous word because Brahma is that which is beyond the concept of the intellect. So, which means a small, what shall we say, kadh, rai in Hindi, compared to a small pepper, this pepper is big, the rai is small. Then you go to another item which is bigger than this. So this big and small are relative. Now, Kaurava army was very big. Pandava army was very small. Now, these are all terms used to convey some idea. So he says, Tasmat Brahmani te titaha. So the purpose of scriptural study is to expand my point of view. Now, what is dosha? Dosha is, what shall you say, a blemish. So he is telling nirdosham, without any blemish whatsoever. Now, this concept of good and bad are limited, relative, with reference at the level of the buddhi. Now, vidya vinaya sampanne, acha. Now, for me to be happy, sarve bhavantu sukhinaha, means may everybody be happy. In that, my happiness also is included. Now, if we really look at life, am I looking for happiness? No, I am not looking for happiness. Because happiness is an opposite term. Sukha, opposite dukkha. So I am not looking for happiness. Happiness is at the level of the mind. So I am looking for something beyond the mind and beyond the intellect. Now, those of us who have been with me know, if Param Pujya Sada Smaraniya Gurudev cracks a joke, suddenly I burst out. A lot of people look at me, why this fellow is doing this? And it happened at Surat once like this. I was the only fellow bursting out. So Param Pujya Gurudev said, after the lecture you call him and ask him why he laughed. And if he is able to answer, you should be happy. Because the laughter is spontaneous. So the purpose of scriptural study is to be spontaneous. Live in the moment. Live in the moment. So the idea is there is nothing other than God. God is generator G, operator O, destroyer D. That is Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. Now suddenly some people may say, why this fellow is talking about all this when you used to talk about Srimad Bhagavad Gita? No, that is my nature. So, Vidya Vinaya Sampanne. Now, Vidya is not this certificate Vidya, which you get from the schools. You top the class, all that you say. Vidya is a class by itself. And if you look at the stanza, Shuni, Shwapaka, Pandita, elephant, all these are different in shape, different in number of years they will live. But what is common is the Atman. Now, Atman, everything is Atman. Swami Mitrananda explained everything is Atman. There is nothing other than Atman. Then why do you have Jairam? Because Ishwar, for identification purpose. So one is Paramartha, which cannot be caught by the buddhi, and the other is what shall they transactional. So, and most important thing is, I must have total faith in the Guru. And what is faith? Belief in what I do not know now, till I come to know what I believe in. If I have caused confusion, I am very, very happy because my project has been successful. Thank you very much. Hari Om.
Hari Om. Thank you, Ishwarji. Would
You're always welcome.
Ajay ji to share his views.
Last couple of verses we have been discussing about the knowledge, which is enveloped by, covered by ignorance, and how to dispel the ignorance to get this knowledge. Those whose impurities have been shaken off by knowledge, that impurities means here it is the ignorance of the spiritual divinity is the impurity, which has to be taken away, which has to be dispelled. Once it is dispelled, you reach you are attaining this knowledge. How do these wise men, those who already like the ignorance of has been lifted or been removed by knowledge, then how we transact, what is the state of his situation? Here, Ishwarji mentioned about the Pandita, those who have aligned with the scripture, with the mind, intellect, body, everything aligned together. That is a message which I captured from Ishwarji's discussion. That Pandita, how they see the veil, Vidya, Vinaya Sampanni, Brahmane, Gavihastini, Shuni Chaiva, Shopakeja, Pandita, Samadarshina. Equal seeing, they are seeing the different kind of people, different kind of beings in the same order, same way. As Jaramji mentioned, Puja Gurudev, he see the when the people approach him, prostrate him with flowers or fruits or Gurudakshina or whatever, with or without, he Gurudev accept them with equanimity, and those who are leaving the hall, they get this equal kind of satisfaction. I have been recognized by Puja Gurudev. That is a state of the wise man. But where we stand as a sadhak, as a seekers, and where we stand, this is the question actually. Once somebody in our vice session itself, somebody asked Puja Guruji, Swami Tejomanji, how do you measure one's growth in spiritual practices? Tejomanji said that that is a equanimity of the mind is that that's it is which you can measure how much you progressed in the path of this evolution, how much you passed in the path of spirituality. The equanimity of the mind, samadarshinaha, equal vision. That's the beauty of that one. They see the wise people and those who are attempting to this one, and to the extent we practice this one. There is a kind of a very high level of very equal immersion. That is kind of ananda we obtain. Suppose we start practicing this samadarsana. To the extent we practice this one, definitely we are practicing. The extent we are practicing, how much we can this one. But in the social order and social pecking order, different systems are there. We have different people are there. Here it is Vidya, Vinaya Sampanni, Brahmani, a highly educated, highly knowledgeable person. Gavi, there is a cow. Hastini, there's an elephant, different species, different kind of people. How one can have an equal vision? People are different in the social order. Beings are different variety of flora and fauna. Everything is happening. But at the same time, how one can be equal-minded, equanimity. Here it is, the next verse explain that one, how it is possible. Because the same pulsating, the Chaitanya in me is everywhere. Whether it is a enemy, which is a friend, or it may be coming to me, approaching me. The same Chaitanya, the Brahman, is everywhere. That once we started realizing that one, once we start practicing this one knowingly, then to that extent we are having also elevated to this level. Okay, the sage at one level, sage or rishis or the great gurus, they are at the one level, they already realized that one. As far as the sadhaka is concerned, how we can get a taste of this one, this samadarsanatvam. That is an important thing. When we see, as Ishwarji mentioned, there are different forms and names are there. People are distinguished by their names and other things are there, forms are there, social status are there. But the same Chaitanya, which is pulsating in every heart, which is throbbing in everybody's heart, is everywhere. That's the same electricity expressing through the different appliances and gadgets. But electricity thing effects are different. So electricity going through a refrigerator gives a coolness, and the fan which gives like wind or air, or it is going to the heater give the heat. That is different. But the same electricity. Once suppose I can see the same electricity, same Chaitanya, same enlightening thing, illuminating thing everywhere in the throughout the species. That to that extent I am free. At least that much is there. So in the Swarupa, everything is same. Swabhava, there is a difference. Swabhava, difference. As per depending on the species, depending on the nature, everything, that Swabhava, it is different. But in the Swarupa, it is that Swarupa Darshanam. I have realized that my Swarupa is that Brahman. And the same Brahman is everywhere. That is a spotless, that's a blemishlessness. That is substratum of everything, in which everything is happening. That is the message which I am getting from these two verses after discussion, listening to the discussions also through Yaramji and our Ishwarji also. They are also pointing to it, that one only. That's Samadarshapvam. That is how much I can practice the Samadarshapvam. How can I view the world with this Samadarshapvam is an important thing. That is a progress of the spiritual practice or spiritual progress or whatever it is we can mention also. That's some other research. But in the ordinary transactional world, as Jaramji mentioned, this commercial world also, sometimes in the transactional world, Vyavaharik law, we have differences are there. But even though we entertain the differences in the inner core, we realize that even the they are the same thing only pulsating through everybody. Even somebody hate me, somebody scold me, even that person also, it is because of the Chaitanya, that enlightens his thoughts, that illuminating his thoughts, that's illuminating his thoughts. Okay, that depending on the media, it is different. He is the mind, the color of the mind, it is different, but the light is same only. That is which is refracting through the mind. It's a different mind, different in the Swarupa, the Swabhava, it is different. Somebody is love me, somebody hate me, somebody treat me differently. But as far as I am concerned, if suppose one can practice that one, see that Chaitanya I can see in everywhere, everything, whether it is a different species, different sizes have been mentioned here. That is the Samadarshapvam. That is the important thing. Once the knowledge, is started giving its light, the ignorance have been removed. To that extent, one can practice this Samadarshapvam. That is Samadarshapvam is the important thing. Once we attain that Samadarshapvam or slowly practicing the Samadarshapvam, to that extent we are establishing the Brahman. That Brahman is the substratum of everything, which is a spotless, blemishless reality. Everywhere, every time, everywhere it is. That's a message I could get from these two verses under discussion. Thank you very much, Hari Om.
Hari Om, thank you, Ajit. Hari Om, I will now move on to Suresh ji.
Hari Om, Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. We are under the discussion today, these two verses, this Vidya Vinaya Sambanne, Brahmane Gevi Hastani, Suni Chaivasyopageja, Pandita Samadarshana. The next one, Iheva Tairjida Sargo, Yesham Samye Stidam Mana, Nardosham Ki Samam Brahma, Tasmat Brahmanite Stida. These two verses are under discussion or the study today. And this 18th verse, it is a globally famous or well-quoted verse. All the slogas, the 700 slogas are famous, even though there are certain verses, it is repeatedly the scholars are quoting and universally it is accepted and famous slogas are there. And this 18th verse is one of that. It is talking about the hallmark and the definition of the Pandita. Who is the Pandita? In the normal way, we think that this Pandita means it is a knowledge or wisdom, or in the other way, we can say that it is some sort of expertise or the dexterity, something like that. It is not like that. It is beyond that. And if you wanted to reach this stage also, you have to absorb, or you have to reach a level which is mentioned in the last sloka. Tad buddhya, tadatmana, tannashta, tadparayana. These are the qualities you have to develop. As Swamiji mentioned in the Art of Man Making, he was saying that such person who have accomplished these 4 disciplines in themselves really move into a greater life of the permanent glory, to a state of beauty and perfection, which is a point of no return, yachanda punaravrati, when their old vasanas and the consequent attitudes or the sins get cleansed by the knowledge. So this is a platform or the plane. Somebody is reached, he blistered all his vasanas, and he is always remaining in the glory and the joy. So that stage reaching, and then he became a Pandita. And in the 18th sloka, it is giving the definition and the hallmarks of the Pandita. Vidya Vinaya Sambanne, Brahmane Gevihastane, Sune Jaiva Shvapageja, Pandita Samadarshana. The Anyartha is Vidya Vinaya Sambanne, Brahmane Gevi Hastane, Sune Shvapage Cha Eva, Pandita Samadarshana. The meaning is sages look with an equal eye upon a Brahmana endowed with learning and humility, on a cow, on an elephant, and even on a dog and an outcast. Here, as I mentioned, that normal people, they think that this is some sort of expertise or the dexterity, something like that. In the society also, we can see that there are a lot of experts are there. They are experts in the stealing and telling lies, or in the other area, we can see that some experts, they are looting the money from the ATM machine, These are the experts. Are we calling them as Pandit Robert or Pandit Madhav, something like that? If they are expert in the stealing and telling the lies, we are not saying that. In some other area also, we can see that in the literature or the music or the Shastra also, we can see that. That is another level. For example, Pandit Jasraj is there, Pandit Ravi Shankar is there. They are the experts in that field, that music. Other way, we can see that Pandit Madan Mohan Mahalavya, or there are a lot of Pandit Gangadhar Jha. These are the people who are conferred the designation by the university or the Vishwavidyalaya. It is conferred. This is also the another level, academically qualified, and they are experts in certain knowledge. So This panda, is it a knowledge? Is it a wisdom or something else? It is very clearly, Shankara Bhagavad, it is mentioned that the definition of the pandita or the it is arising from the dhatu, the panda. Panda means, which is very clearly, he mentioned that Atma Vishaya Buddhi. Atma Vishaya Buddhi. Something is subjective to the Atma, the intelligence or the wisdom, which is subject to the Atma. This is the Panda. So one who has this, attained this knowledge or this wisdom, he is the Pandita, which is called. So it is a very, very much higher level, this Pandita or the subject, the Panda. Here also, in a very psychological way, this sloka is composed. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmana. You know, the qualities of the Brahmana is the Vidya and the Vinaya, the knowledge and the humility. These two, who has acquired or developed, he is a real Brahmana. Gavi means cow. Hastini means the elephant. Shuni means the dog. Chaiva Shobhage, one who is in different meaning, we can see in different commentaries. Chaiva Shobhage means some of the commentators, they are commenting that one who is cooking the dog, and some they are saying that who is eating the dog. You know, precisely we can see that it is symbolizing the Chandala. You know, the representation of the tamasic quality. You know, Shobhageja Pandita Samadarshana, the Samadarshita. You know, one who has this Samadarshittam, the equality and equanimity, he is seeing in all these Brahmanas or the cows or in the elephant or in the dog or in the Chandalas. He is the real Pandita. This is the clear definition and the hallmarks we can see that. Here also little analysis is required. I can give you the tips. The rest of the things you can analyze that. See that the Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmana, this is the representing the Brahmana who acquired this knowledge and the humility. It is representing the sattvic quality. And moving to the cow, it is a house animal. It is a house animal. This house animal is representing the Rajoguna. And the next example is given by Bhagavan, is the Hastini. Hastini is a forest animal. Forest animal means the elephant, which is a forest animal, which is representing the tamasic quality. And again, coming back to the Shuni, the dog is again, it is a house animal, which is again, it is representing a Rajasic quality. And Chaiva Shobhageja, which is the representation of the tamasic quality, the who is the dog eater or the Chandala, you know. And in all these animals and sattvic qualities, who is seeing all of them equally, he is the Pandita. So what is the qualification required? It is the Samadarshitatam. And it is not easy. In the earlier sloka, we have seen that to acquire this Samadarshittam, what are the steps we have to Bhagavad Gita itself, in the 13th chapter, it is very clearly, it is given the definition. Amanita aham amanitvam adambhitvam ahimsa kshantirarjavam acharyopasanam shaujam stairyam atmavinigraha etc. It is starting from the 7th sloka and ending in the 11th sloka. Adhyatma jnana nityatvam tattva jnanartha darshanam edat jnanam iti pravaktam. Very clearly it is mentioned the jnana lakshanam. So here, if you are combining this together, this jnanam and the pandityam or the panda, which is something different. Jnana, it is very clearly explained in the 13th chapter. And here the Pandita Samadarshana, the one who is the Pandita, what is his, the most important quality is the Samadarshitvam. Samadarshitvam, when we are talking about the Samadarshitvam also, I will tell you a small story about Swami Vivekananda, because he himself was repeatedly, he was telling his experience. When he was in the wandering days in the Khetri Palace in Rajasthan, the Maharaja was arranged a music darbar for Swamiji to entertain him, and the Maharaja went and told him that Swamiji, we have organized a music event for you. Please come and attend. There is a Nauch girl, a small girl is singing. Please come. Immediately Swamiji is reacted that gentleman, I'm a sannyasi. You are inviting me to for the, with hesitation, Swamiji went to the darbar and he started listening the music. And the girl started with a bhajan composed by Surdas, and she was singing that Mere avaguna chitta nadharo samadarshi ho nam tiharo. You know that the meaning is, oh Lord, do not look upon my evil qualities. Your name in same slightedness, that is the Samadarshitva. Then immediately the Swamiji went to the girl and he gave all his blessings to the girl, and he mentioned that I am a sannyasi. I made a distinction between the person and the person. That is a Noch girl. This is somebody else, etc. She has taught me a real Vedanta today. She has taught me a real Vedanta today. This is the real definition. We can see that what is the Samadarshitvam. This is the most important quality we should inculcate and we should develop. In our society, we can see that when the election comes, the candidates, they are coming to the villages and they are, hugging and shaking with the constituency. Please come and vote for that. This is, Benigam. After the election is over, whether he is passed or failed, he never turned that space. You are you, I am I. This is the mentality. We should change that, and then only the society will progress. We have to acquire the knowledge. Knowledge will lead to the unity. Ignorance always it is leading to the diversity. The same, the senses are revealed the diversity, and the knowledge are revealing to the unity. So this is the universal profound message we can receive from this slogan number 18, which is one of the famous slogan from the Bhagavad Gita. And moving to the 19th verse, Ihaiva Tairjida Sargo Yeshan Samye Stidam Manadardosham Ki Samam Brahma Dasmat Brahman Stida. This is the 19th sloka. 19th sloka also telling the same truth. Even here in this world, birth, everything is overcome by those whose minds rest in the equality. Brahman is faultless indeed, and equal. Therefore, they are established in Brahma. Who is established in Brahma? There is no rebirth. This is the another profound truth we can see in the 19th verse. So these are the famous messages we can see through these verses. And let me stop here. Time is already 8:15. Hari Om.
Hari Om. Thank you, Suryaji. Very good explanations. Would request others. Meenakshi ji, would you like to share some views on this?
Hari Om. So the verse 18, it talks about, as Suresh mentioned very elaborately, about seeing divinity everywhere and seeing that isness everywhere. The same life is there everywhere. And what I particularly liked in the translation of Gurudev is the last stanza, last paragraph which Gurudev has mentioned. Don't respect whom we must respect, but respect whom we shouldn't respect. So respecting dog as much as you respect a Brahman, and Brahman also respecting as that also is equally wrong. So that is something which I particularly liked. And coming back to verse 19, although a lot of people, everybody has spoken more about the 18th verse, I particularly like the 19th verse because talking about the 18th verse is a very, very high level of understanding, which probably at my level, I'm not able to even follow. But something, the way the explanations, the commentary which Gurudev has given on the 19th verse is something which is really nice. It talks about two things. One is that you can become a Superman, you can reach the Supermanhood, you can realize the Brahman in this life itself. You don't have to actually go to some after that philosophy is not there in our religion. So if you want to experience something, it is here and now. You just have to follow these steps. So that is there. And it talks about Patanjali Yoga Sutra. And who is a person who can reach that state? So the person who can reach that state is someone who lives in equanimity and whose mind is always equal. So an individual, so the last paragraph which Gurudev has written, an individual who has discovered for himself a sufficient amount of tranquility so that nothing can disturb him. Like a reed on the waves will be tossed up by the waves, but the lighthouse which is built upon firm rocks is always upright and changeless. And even the stormy waves, they exhaust their anger at their feet. So someone who has a equanimity in mind, and what are the steps to be taken? So that at our level, that is more important, is to get that equanimity of mind first. And how do we get that? So that we get through sense control. And those are the steps which probably we need to implement, at least I need to implement. That's it. Hari Om.
Hari Om. Thank you. Pradeep ji, would you like to share your views?
Hari Om. Yeah, it was very nice to listen to all the speakers before. As Jairamji said, when my daughter is dancing in the group dance, I see only her. So when somebody points out at that aspect, that you were watching only you laugh. So, and it ends there. No further improvement on that. So probably that is the reason what Gurudev said to Ishwarji when he had a spontaneous laughter at that particular point. So what Gurudev said is really striking. What he said is, if he has understood, it is fine. That means if we laugh at the joke and leave it there, that means it is no use. That is what we see all in all the yajnas. When the talks happen, the people roar in laughter. But we leave it there. Or maybe we consider it as just a joke and then we don't try to look inward whether there is any improvement possible, or is it that vision can be brought in. It is not, I mean, we consider that is natural. Yes, it is everyone will look at their daughter or son, something like that, and we leave it there. So finish. Our knowledge, our progress ends there. So that is very, very nice two points, and Jaramji has said very in detail about the equal vision. You know, that what we see the packaging and not the stuff inside, and also about this particular aspect, that is, and also the beautiful thing that the parent sees only the child, her child, as hers, whereas the school teacher sees all children as hers. So, and so coming to the slokas, and also our Ankit ji said so beautifully about the recap. So that not returning to this samsara is the goal, and removing the ignorance. Just to know Narayana, he will do everything. So beautiful message. Thank you. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavihastini Shuni Chaiva Shwa Pakecha Pandita Samadarshinaha. So here the 4 or 5 categories which has been given are, as Suresh ji explained, Brahmana. What Brahmana is explained as Vidya Vinaya Sampanne. Vidya Dadati Vinayam. The education should be to get Vinayam, humility. If it is not education. So the one who has that Vinayam is the beauty of the real, I mean, the sense behind the Sattvic man. So here the categories explained here are Brahmana, Gavi, Hastini, Shuni, and Shwapaka. So the highest Sattvic man, the lowest Tamasic man, the I don't know, I mean, so Suresh ji has said that cow is considered as Rajasi, but just in my thought, I just was analyzing that cow is attached to so a lot of sensuousness, and I mean, it is in Bhagavatam, it is said that the man elephant falls in the ditch because he is running after the lady elephant, and out of the touch and all these things, that Guru, 24 Guru examples. And then the dog is the Rajasic animal. So the Rajasic animal, the Tamasic animal, the Sattvic animal, and the highest of Sattvic man, the lowest of Tamasic man are the categories given here, and to see have the equal vision. Now, what is equal vision? Now, equal vision, so Ajayji said that when somebody asked Guruji that what is, how to measure the progress. So Guruji said that equanimity of mind is the yardstick. So is equanimity of mind and equal vision the same? We have to analyze that. I mean, equanimity of mind is mana prasannata, mana shanti. Mana shanti is not what is said here. So what is here? It is samadarshanam, that is equal vision. So what is the relation between this? If you analyze, you can see that if you have equanimity of mind, mana shanti, then only our tendency to look inward will be there. Otherwise, there is no time for us. We are not with us. So you are missing someone if you are not talking to yourself. Vivekananda Swami has said that. So once you have the equanimity of mind, then you will have the tendency to look inwards. And once you look inwards, then you can have this samadarshanam. How? By knowing that this is nothing but the gold in different forms, names and forms, or the water in different lather, wave, tsunami, or whatever. So how to approach at this? So Gurudev has explained that in the Gautama Samhita, it is explained that you should not. If you look at the dog and the Brahmana is in the equal fashion or the same respect is given. Is that what it is meant? It is not. That is, so it is something again. There the fine difference is that it is a respect versus the equal vision. What is respect? Whom to respect? It's very clearly said in 17th chapter. So whom to be respected? The Sharirika tapas. Deva Dvija Guru Prajna Pujanam Chauchamarjavam. So that in that slokam it is said that Deva, then the Dvija, that is Brahmana, the twice born, then Guru and Prajna, the knowledgeable, only to be respected, irrespective of the age and caste and things like that. So with respect to that, that is the respect part, that is the knowledge. The whoever has the knowledge should be respected. Whereas here it is the point of equal vision. Equal vision means what? You have to see the truth behind all these are the same. So whether it is a Brahmana or it's a Chandala or a cow or animal, the truth, the electricity behind all the equipments are the same, is the same. So that aspect, that is how the Gurudev's beautiful example of the man, the boy who takes the Ramamurti and Lakshmana Murti of gold to the goldsmith. He sees only the gold. So he doesn't care whether it is Ramamurti or it is a something else. He is only looking at the gold. So that is the equal vision which is talked about. So all things are the containers, and it is the stuff inside is the same, which is to be seen as the. And the next verse says, Ihaiva Tayarjita Sargaha Esham Samye Stitam Manaha Nirdosham Hi Samam Brahma Tasmad Brahmani Te Stitaha. Iha Eva. Here it is this process has to be done where? It is not somewhere in the heaven or something, what Gurudev said. It is not a godly idealism to be experienced after death, somewhere in the heavens. No, it is right here and now. Iha eva taihi, by them, jitaha is conquered, sargaha, the rebirth, yesham samye stitam manaha, for of them, of whom, who have equal vision, the samye stitam manaha, equality, yesham, of whom, samye, inequality, stitam, their mind is established in equality, equanimity. Nirdosham hi samam brahma tasmad brahmani te stitaha. The Brahman is nirdosham, it is blemishless, taintless, or spotless, and samam, equal. Nirdosham hi samam brahma tasmad, therefore brahmani te stitaha. He rests in Brahman. Brahmani is Saptami Vibhakti. In Brahman. Brahmani te stitaha. Stitaha means it is not stitaha, it is stitaha. It is plural. Why? Because it is te stitaha. So, and Gurudev says here, so it is the most, Gurudev quotes Patanjali Yoga Sutram also. So that is where there is the yoga, chitta vritti nirodha is the process in Patanjali Yoga Sutra. So that mind is nothing but the flow of thoughts. Once the flow of thoughts is not there, there is no mind. So that amanavastha is where you can see the truth behind. So that is the samatva, and also it is explained the 2nd chapter, 48th verse. Yogastha kuru karmani sangam tyektva dhananjaya siddha asiddhyo samo bhutva samatvam yoga uchyate. Yoga is explained as samatvam yoga uchyate. So for that, what is said, Yogastha kuru karmani, be established in yoga. So in the chapter 4, we have got the 12 subjective yogas, yajnas given for a daily doing for a sadhaka to get established in the yoga. So Yogastha kuru karmani sangam tyektva, attachment to be removed. Sangam tyektva dhananjaya siddha asiddhyo samo bhutva, whether you achieve it or not, you should have that samatvam. Siddhya asiddhyo samo bhutva samatvam yoga uchyate is that particular verse. And here at the end, Gurudev gives a beautiful statement that Krishna's argument is thus logically sound when he declares that a mortal among us, who can maintain his equanimity under all conditions, as explained in the foregoing stanzas, is indeed one who has contacted the divine and the eternal in himself. So that means it is possible for everyone. That is the assurance given by, and Gurudev wants to hold everyone together among us. And so we are so far from Gurudev, but he says among us. And so, so this is the, so, and what is to be done is the, Jairamji also touched upon that point that, when we see the things, we are completely attracted towards the things outside. And that how we generate sort of likes and dislikes. So this likes and dislikes is the crux of it, as we have discussed in the last class. Vishaya Ragadvesha Vyuktaistu Vishayan Indriyaischaran Atmavashyer Videyatma Prasadam Adhigachati Prasade Sarvadukhanam Hanirasyopajayate Prasanna Chetaso Hyashu Buddhi Paryavatishtate. So to Buddhi, to get Paryavatishtate, to establish in that equanimity, while moving around in the world of Vishayas, we have to have not swayed by the likes and dislikes. So Vishayan Indriyesharan Ragadvesha Vyuktehi, by without likes and dislikes. So this is the thing given to the sadhaka, and to achieve this equal vision, and such a person rests in Brahman. Tasmat Brahmani te sthitaha. Hari Om.
Hari Om. We'll move to Balaji, please.
Hari Om. Hari Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Very beautiful discussions. Very nice so far. I think starting from Jairamji, very, very practical, realistic examples to understand this verse and discussion. So, very nicely, all of the previous speakers have put across the fact that a realized person possesses the vision of equality amongst the differences that the ignorant tends to see. So, the comparing and contrasting the two visions. So now here we are talking today about a universal vision versus a compartmentalized vision. So a compartmentalized vision we will see through the eyes of the ego. And when we see through the eyes of the ego, everything will be looking to us as what belongs to us, or whatever we see, we will see with the eyes and the color shades of our perceptions, feelings, and thoughts. So the PFT is the one which will keep guiding us in our life in making all our decisions when we see through this eyes of the ego. So what is being discussed here today obviously is not what we are, or not the vision that we normally look at this world. This today's discussions is something from an entirely different standpoint. So just to go back one or two concepts before, by yoga, by performing selfless actions, we can purify our mind and intellect and lose one aspect of this ego, which is the enjoyership of fruits, that is the attachment to results. Further, by the experience of the self with such pure mind and intellect, by experience the divinity within us, then we come to know of the supreme existence in us, and we are nothing but the divinity. And therefore, we also tend to lose the second part of the ego, which is the doership. And he is doing, and I am merely an instrument. So this is all the various aspects of the so-called jnanam that we have discussed in our previous verses in this chapter, Sannyasa Yoga. So the giving up of this ego is the main subject of discussion. So in doing so, in giving up this ego, and after we give up these two aspects of the ego, the dawn of knowledge happens. So this is what has been discussed so far in the various verses. So what is the culmination of such knowledge? The culmination of such knowledge is this today's vision, ocean vision, which Gurudev has mentioned earlier, the universal vision, UV. UV is very easy to remember, ultraviolet rays we all. So UV, the universal vision is the culmination of such knowledge. And in just one verse before this, we have seen that the one who has by experience of the Atma Jnanam has lost the Ajnana Bhava, and by losing that Ajnana Bhava, he has come into existence into a different plane of consciousness. That is was the 16th shloka. 17th shloka also says that once we have this experience of the Supreme in us, then all these three equipments of us, body, mind, and intellect, will be in constant touch with the Supreme Consciousness. So, Tat Buddhaya tat atmanaha tan nishtas tat parayanaha. So this was discussed in the previous verse. Tat buddhaya. That means the buddhi, intellect, has embraced the totality. It is in constant touch with that jnana that you have had. The totality dawns. The viveka dawns. From there on, if the buddhi is connected to the totality, then the question of separation doesn't exist. Whereas today our intellect is totally engaged through our PFT, and since our identification of the BMI is not with this concept of totality, but it is compartmentalized, we tend to see each thing to be different from one another. And once this buddhi, manaha, atmanaha is in and are both together, the mind and intellect integrated, has only one goal, parayanaha, then through that goal we will be in nishtha, established with the value systems of that goal, the properties of that goal. Everything will be aligned to that goal. So the entire BMI will be functioning towards that particular goal. So in that process, apunar avirtam, na punar avirtam, you will not be again entering the realm of this compartmentalized vision. And therefore, jnana kalmishaha, the purification, all the earlier plurality disappears. So in that situation only, this today's verse of sama darshinaha will happen. Sama darshinaha is the result of the dawn of such totality, experience of the totality. The divinity in me is the divinity in all. Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. This is the concept of the Sama Darshinaha. In the 19th verse, we also have this Samye Stitam Manaha, equanimity of mind. Sama Darshinaha and Stitam Manaha. These both words are very important to be connected. Both words are very important to be connected. So as we know, Tat Buddhaya, when our buddhi, Tad Atmanaha, Tat Parayanaha, when this is our goal, when divinity is my priority, then let us take the 19th verse first. Then, Iha Aiva, here, now, and here. Again, there's a condition, Thair Jitaha. Thair Jitaha Sarga. Those who have been able to conquer the concept of Sarga, creation. Creation means duality. The compartmentalization happens with the creation. Tairjita Sargaha, for those who remain in that Brahmastitha. For those who are able to see everything from the point of totality, for those who are able to look at the universal vision in motion. In all commotions, we must be able to see the universal vision. Gurudev's beautiful, these two lines, the perfected cannot make distinctions based upon likes and dislikes. Now he says, in and through all forms and situations, he sees the expressions of the same dynamic truth which he experiences as his own self. So this is very important. In and through all forms and situations. This is our life, right? Experiencing plurality is our daily transactional world. We don't see, everything is different in our daily approach. Yet, to see the commonality becomes the very important aspect of it. While doing so, then if we are able to see this, if we are able to see the truth behind all projections, if we are able to see the whole universe as nothing but the expressions of the Lord only, this reflected consciousness that we see is nothing but He alone. Although there are differences. This is very important. This is, I think, in my understanding of these verses and also the concept of understanding the Samadarshanaha, we have to be very, very clear. Otherwise, we will be tossed into many confusions in our daily transactions. We should also, many of us have spoken now about the totality and experiencing the one truth behind all these projections and plurality, right? But the plurality doesn't disappear. This is very important. The plurality doesn't disappear. So this is also one thing we should very clearly remember. I want to, Gurudev had narrated one beautiful story in this video of explaining these verses. Gurudev has mentioned about a story where Gurudev walks into a mirrored room, a maze, a room of maze with completely mirrored on all sides. So Gurudev enters the room and sees himself in the mirror, right? So when he sees himself in the mirror, then Swami smiles at the Swami, he says. Swami smiles at the Swami and sees that all the 1,000 Swamis are smiling back at him. Swami embraces all the other Swamis with love. When you see the object in the mirror as your own self, when you see yourself in all others, then quite naturally the love spontaneously comes out, right? So in the same room, following the master, the Alsatian dog also enters. So the situation here is different now. So the Alsatian dog also sees 1,000 dogs in the mirror. So what happens? How will the dog react? I am the only one dog belonging to the master, and how is it that there are 1,000 dogs coming here to take my place? So it starts seeing all the dogs to be different from itself. And consequently, what happens? He tries to go and fight with each dog in the mirror, and in the process breaks his jaw and starts oozing with blood. And with no other go, Swami can only sympathize with the nature of the dog because he doesn't have the intellect to see the Samadarshana. So this beautiful story and example given by Gurudev was very touching. See, from whose point of view are you viewing this world? Are you viewing it from the dog's point of view or from the God's point of view? So the standpoint with which we are seeing this creation becomes very, very essential for a very clear understanding of our practical application of this Samadarshana. I will expand. When we read this world, when we read these verses and when we are aligning ourselves to this concept of totality, you should see that there are two standpoints. Also, today's story given here, the rich man not being able to see the same standpoint of the goldsmith. The standpoint of the goldsmith, he sees only gold in all the ornaments. The standpoint of the rich man's son, he sees it to be different from one another. The value system, when you compartmentalize, is different from the value system that you see the essentials. So we should, in all our understanding, we should be very clear, the vidya, the dawn of the knowledge, using the intellect for discrimination, nitya, anitya, viveka vastu. That is the intellect's job. So there is something nitya and there is something anitya. In all our transactions, we must be able to differentiate this. So whenever we are talking about this word samadarshanaha, we should also keep in mind guna guneshu vartante. There is a transactional world also. The laws of the transactional world are also uniform in their approach. Like Gurudev says in one of the examples, if even Einstein jumps out of the balcony, the gravity will behave in the same manner only. It is not going to be different for him. That is the universal concept of the cosmic laws. But at the same time, when we also have to have this proper understanding that once you enter the realm of the guna, once you enter the realm of the matter, then you have to apply the theory of relativity. Now there you cannot go and say that samadarshana. The essentials and the non-essentials must be clearly differentiated. This is very, very important understanding I have learned. I wanted to share. Now you cannot say that samadarshana, so I will make the conductor to become the driver. It doesn't work. In practical application, in transactional world, this guna guneshu vartante is real. From the spiritual standpoint of view, from the standpoint of the goldsmith, the gold is real. It is the Atman that is the Sarvadharam for the existence of this world. There is no doubt about it. But to say that 1.5 volts and 150 volts and 250 what is coming through your plug point and what is coming through your cell phone charger is samadarshanaha is utter stupidity. We must be very, very clear about this concept. This is something which I thought I should bring about in our discussions today, because we should not get ourselves confused with the transactional world. But our ability to see the one in all these expressions is most important. Because what is the benefit of that one? But seeing the one in all. When you don't see the difference in one another, rather you put it this way, which we examined it very clearly earlier also, the likes and dislikes start when you see one to be different from the other. So when there is likes and dislikes, the mind gets the energy to function, because the mind needs differentiation. If there is no differentiation, the mind cannot function, because the chitta vritti will not be there when the mind is present. So if the mind is absent, the thoughts are absent. When the thought is present, the mind is present. There is the connection in all these things. So if a thought has to be present, then the root cause of all thoughts are nothing but the likes and dislikes. Even going one step more behind, what is it that originates these likes and dislikes? Of course, we know that it is because of our vasanas. Each one has a personal fragrance. Each one has a personal way of taking up the encounters with the OET. That is fine. But even there, it is only when you bring your awareness to an object, dhyayato vishayan pumsaha. So this dhyayato is the starting point of all our misery. The constant, then this one, once you get the attention to this difference, that seems to be good, this seems to be nice, this is my child on the stage, like Jairamji said, beautiful practical examples. Everything that he said is all too practical for us to understand. So we are, dhyayate is on the container, not on the content. The containers, no doubt, are always different. That is the world. Otherwise, the marketing will not exist, right? So they have to play with packaging and pricing. The content of salt is the same. How can you do different? See, actually in marketing, this is a very challenging example that they take up. How can you bring out product differentiations in salt? Even today, we are seeing that there are so many varieties of salts: Himalayan salt, pink salt, iodized salt, this salt, that salt. Again, they're creating the differences in the so-called properties and the packaging of these containers. So this we cannot avoid. Guna guneshu vartante. The sense organs will play with the gunas. Leave that alone. You must know that that is functioning in that realm. We are now transcending to different level of consciousness. Now that is the essential aspect of the samadarshinaha. This aspect is very, very important. Then what happens? We know that whether Vidya and Vinaya are consequential, right? Vidya leads to Vinaya. Why that humility? Again, because you don't see the differences. Sampanne, endowed with. You are endowed with who's because of your efforts of knowing. The endowment comes to you because of His grace and your efforts. Therefore, again, here there is very important that if you want to shift and evolve to the higher level of consciousness, to get a spiritual experience, to get yourself aligned with the spiritual vision of God vision, then you have to take an effort in this. Otherwise, you will continue to be ignorant. Ignorance doesn't give birth to knowledge, right? So, Vidya, Vinaya, Sampane, Brahmana, and all those differentiations so beautifully explained by our Suresh ji, Pradeep ji. Domesticated versus wild. Again, it's the play of guna, right? Domesticated sattvic, wild being rajasic and tamasic. All these differentiations are there. For the wise, these differentiations are there in the non-essentials. But the essential aspect of the Atman behind the functioning of all these differences, he sees that to be the core of all. So once we develop this vision of seeing the universal core, then automatically the next quality of sthita manaha will happen. Because you know, essentially there is no difference, but the difference is only in this relative world. All this may happen, but it essentially doesn't affect me because I am that. Tat buddhayaha, tat atmanaha, tat parayanaha, and therefore tat nishtaha. So with what you are associated, you become that. Brahma with Brahmaiva Bhavati. That is a very famous, same thing only is told here also. Nirdosham Hi Saman Brahma. Brahma is a Brahman, also is equal for all. We have seen that in all our previous explanations given that the nature of Brahman is Saman. Nature of Brahman is immutable. Nature of Brahman is immaculately clean. Nirdosham, spotless. So because our association is with the Brahman, Tasmat Brahmani te stishtaha. You also are established in that state of equanimity, spotlessly clean, not being tainted by the happenings of the guna guneshu. Our body, mind and intellect are functioning here, but our level of consciousness is there. That is why in the previous shlokas also we have seen, he does, but he also does not do. Kurvan na karyan. He is doing the karyam, but not at the vasana level. It is all happening here merely at the instrument level. Indra, at the yantra level. These are all instruments functioning for the sake of functioning here, but doesn't accrue anything in the vasana level because he is already connected in that nishtaha, Brahman nishtaha. Brahmani te stishtaha. So this is what I wanted to share. Anyway, thank you very much for the opportunity. Hari Om. Sadgurunath Maharaj ki jai.
Hari Om. Thank you, Balaji. Sukumarji, can you start the closing prayers?
Okay.
Sukumarji, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, Hari Om.